everyone, Nikki Buckaloo here at Seniors Real Estate Institute. Today I'm going to be talking about another tool for helping you put your clients back in the driver's seat. And that tool is the authorization to share information. There's a form that you've probably come across if you're in our part 2 of Success in Seniors Real Estate that is titled Authorization to Share Information. And this is a document, it's not a legal contract, it's just a document that goes along with your listing paperwork that you can fill out with the client that tells you who that person is going to authorize you to speak with about their affairs and circumstances, and who maybe they don't want you to talk to. So there's 2 sections: who they let you talk to or don't mind you talking to, and who they would prefer you avoid talking to. So there's always a story behind these forms. So I'm going to share with you 2 stories. The first story is why the form was instituted in the first place. These things often happen as a result of our own experiences. In this case, is no different. So I met with a lady and her daughter. She was planning to sell her long-term home and move closer to her daughter's house. And we had a great meeting. They were very open. They communicated with each other effectively. Now, they talked about the other daughter who was not present that day. Nothing negative was said. They kind of, talked a little bit about her and what she might think about this, but nothing really significant came out of that conversation. I didn't think twice about it. Until a day or so later, I get a phone call from the other daughter, and she had some questions about mom's sale of her home and some of the details, and I openly shared with her some information, not thinking that it was a big deal. Then when I talked to her sister, I mentioned, oh, your sister called, and I spoke with her briefly, and she paused. And I was like, uh-oh. And she said, yeah, Mom and I would really rather not be involved in this. And she really has some things going on that we'd like to not include her in the details of Mom's transaction. Now, they weren't angry, they weren't upset, but I was mortified. I thought, oh my gosh, I've shared something with someone that I shouldn't, and I should know better, right? Like I should know better. But it seemed so natural just to have that family conversation. The lady who called was kind and nice, and I didn't think anything about it. Now, this was many, many, many years ago, and we instituted that form. And what I realized later, I didn't realize it in the moment, it was a practical form in that moment. Kind of like a HIPAA form, but HIPAA forms weren't a big deal back then. So now we sign HIPAA forms all the time, right, at the doctor's office. Well, this form, when I started utilizing it, what I found is that it gave people a sense of control, much like the easy exit form that we talked about in one of our other videos. What I mean by that is now I'm asking them, who should I have on this list, if anyone, that you would be okay with me talking to? Let's say they called me and they said, what's going on with Mary Jane? Would it be okay with you if I shared with them that you put your home on the market and that things are going well? No details, I don't need to give them really details, but would it be okay with me to share with a neighbor, for instance, that you are making a move? So it causes them to have to think, well, who is in my inner circle? Like, who would I really want to know this information and who would I not? And it's interesting because we always want to list, if they're moving to a senior living community, we'll list the marketing rep's name or whoever their point of contact is. We'd like to list like an emergency contact. If there's a son or daughter or family member that they rely on in an emergency, who would that be? We ask them some like specific people that we know we're going to need to talk to probably. And then we'll ask questions like, well, what about the neighbors? And what about any of your relatives or any of your kids? And sometimes you might be surprised when they say, absolutely do not talk to this person. And they'll give you the name and they'll tell you who they are and they'll tell you the story behind that. And they've generally had some sort of encounter with them. Now, obviously, we'll tell them that the information on your home is going to be public record, right? It's going to be on the internet. People are going to know about the house. They're going to be able to see pictures of it, things like that. But if someone were to contact us, we would not be at liberty to discuss any information with them about your personal situation. And they're very appreciative of that. It's like we're opening up a conversation with them saying, we respect your privacy, we respect your confidentiality, who is important enough to know about things. Now, let me give you another story real quick about how we use this form later. So we had a client, she had her house listed with us, and we were making preparations. Our house wasn't on the market yet, but we were just talking with her as we were preparing to put her house on the market. Our assistant tells us one day that she had called several times. And when she called, she was kind of rapid fire. She seemed really anxious. She wasn't like herself. And so she said, somebody may want to check on her. So we did. We ran by, and I, just noticed that she was very anxious to the point where she was almost frozen, like she really just couldn't function. And I asked her, I said, could I call your son for you? Could I give him a call and let's check in and see if maybe you can schedule a doctor's appointment? No, she said, I don't want to bother him. Now, our clients tell us this all the time. They don't want to bother their kids, but we know that if that was our parent, we would want the phone call, right? So I reminded her, I said, Ms. Raymond, when we sat down that day and we filled out that form and you put your son's name on there and you said it would be okay if I contacted him in the case of an emergency. And I really kind of feel like this is an emergency, like we should reach out to him. What do you think? She said, yeah, it'd be okay if you call him. So I said, okay, great. So I pulled out my form, I gave him a call, he set up a doctor's appointment. The next day, she was back to her old self. She was just really, really anxious, and her doctor gave her something for that. So I bring this up to say it can be a major crisis, it could be just some challenges you're having, or it could just be a neighbor calling to ask questions and be nosy. You have a form that gives you instructions, that tells you who you can talk to, what you can talk to them about, and whether or not you should keep some things private. So I hope that's been helpful. Again, another tool in your toolkit. And if you're in part 2 of Success in Seniors Real Estate, you have that form and it can be edited to your liking. And just make sure that if you're in a brokerage that they want you to run forms by, you might check that out with your broker first. And make sure that it's compliant with what you need to have in your state or in your brokerage. Again, I'm Nikki Buckley at Buckley Realty Group and Seniors Real Estate Institute. Have a great day.